London, June 7th, 1594. Dawn breaks over Tyburn. The crowd surges forward, shouting, sweating, hungry for blood. They've come to witness a spectacle of death. But this is no common execution. On the scaffold stands a man who once held Queen Elizabeth's life in his hands. His name is Rodrigo Lopez, royal physician, exile, and now condemned traitor. In moments, he'll be torn apart before thousands. If you enjoy dark stories from history, please subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Rodrigo Lopez was born around 1517 in Portugal, a land ruled by faith and fear. As a converso, a Jew forced to live as a Christian, his family survived by secrecy and silence, while the Inquisition's flames consumed those who refused to hide. Gifted in medicine, Lopez studied at the University of Coimbra, mastering both classical and Arabic healing. His skill became his refuge, the only protection in a world that distrusted his name and faith. By the late 1550s, even brilliance couldn't save him. The Inquisition's grip tightened, and Lopez fled Portugal for England, a Protestant realm where survival might, at last, be possible. In London, Rodrigo Lopez rebuilt his life through skill alone. His cautious, intelligent treatments earned trust in a city where medicine often killed. Success followed. He became physician at St. Bartholomew's Hospital, where his talent drew the attention of Robert Dudley, the powerful Earl of Leicester. Through Dudley's favor, Lopez entered the royal court, and in 1581 he was appointed physician to Queen Elizabeth I. For a refugee once hunted by the Inquisition, it was an impossible rise, and the beginning of his greatest danger. Serving the Queen meant more than healing her body. It meant navigating the deadly games of power that surrounded her. Lopez's intelligence and foreign connections soon drew the attention of Sir Francis Walsingham, Elizabeth's spy master. Behind his role as royal physician, Lopez carried messages, gathered intelligence, and moved between diplomats and merchants who crossed borders others could not. He was a healer by title, but a spy by necessity. By the mid-1580s, his influence and wealth had grown. Yet in a court driven by ambition and fear, success was dangerous. Every whisper, every foreign contact could be twisted into treason. And for a man with Jewish blood in Protestant England, suspicion was never far behind. After the death of the Earl of Leicester, Lopez's former patron, a new favorite, rose in Elizabeth's court, Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex. Young, proud, and hungry for power, Essex saw rivals everywhere. To him, Lopez was one of them, a foreigner with access to the Queen he could not control. Their conflict deepened over Portugal. Essex wanted a military campaign to place Don Antonio on the Portuguese throne, a venture Lopez warned was doomed. When the expedition failed, Essex needed someone to blame. Lopez, with his Portuguese roots and cautious advice, became the perfect target. Soon, Essex's spies were watching Lopez's every move, twisting his words into evidence. The doctor who had once healed England's most powerful now stood in the crosshairs of its most dangerous man. By the early 1590s, England pulsed with fear. The threat of Spain still loomed, Catholic plots were whispered in every tavern, and paranoia had become politics. Essex saw his chance. When Portuguese agents were caught carrying suspicious letters, they named Rodrigo Lopez under interrogation, almost certainly under torture. Essex seized on their words, claiming the Queen's own doctor was plotting to poison her for Spain. Elizabeth at first laughed off the accusation. She had trusted Lopez for years. But Essex pressed harder, feeding her doubts, forging a narrative of betrayal. On January 1st, 1594, Rodrigo Lopez was arrested and taken to the Tower of London. The healer who once protected the Queen's life was now accused of trying to end it. On February 28, 1594, Rodrigo Lopez was dragged before the Guildhall in London. The hall was packed, nobles, officials, and citizens eager to watch justice or vengeance unfold. But the verdict had been decided long before he arrived. The prosecution, led by Attorney General Edward Coke, painted Lopez as a monster, a deceitful foreigner and worse than Judas. His supposed confession, extracted through intimidation, was treated as fact. Lopez had no lawyer, no chance to defend himself, and every word he spoke was twisted against him. When he declared, "I love the Queen as I love Jesus Christ," the crowd roared, taking it as proof of false faith, not loyalty. By the day's end, the jury found him guilty of high treason. The sentence was death, not by sword or rope alone, but by hanging, drawing, and quartering. A punishment meant to destroy not just the man, but his very humanity. June 7, 1594. Morning sunlight spilled over Tyburn as London gathered for a show of death. Vendors shouted, ale spilled, and the crowd pressed close, hungry to see the Queen's own doctor destroyed. Rodrigo Lopez, bound to a wooden hurdle, was dragged through the streets from the tower, jeered, beaten, and spat upon. The journey itself was part of the sentence, meant to strip him of dignity before the scaffold finished the work. At Tyburn, the triangular gallows stood waiting beside a fire and a boiling cauldron. Lopez, pale and frail, was lifted to the platform. Allowed to speak, he declared, "I love the Queen as I love Jesus Christ." It was a final vow of loyalty, but the crowd twisted it into blasphemy and howled for his death. The rope tightened, choking him until he hung limp. Then, still alive, he was cut down. The executioner opened his abdomen, pulling out the intestines and casting them into the fire as the crowd roared. When it ended, Lopez was beheaded and quartered, his head fixed on London Bridge, his remains scattered across the city. By noon, the spectacle was over. The healer who once held the Queen's life in his hands now hung in pieces, his name erased by fear, his body claimed by fire and stone. London rejoiced at the Queen's deliverance, but doubt lingered, even in Elizabeth's heart. She had trusted Rodrigo Lopez, and many whispered she signed his death warrant only under Essex's pressure. Essex's triumph was brief. His ambition and arrogance soon consumed him, and in 1601 he met the same fate, executed for treason, just like the man he destroyed. For England's Portuguese and Jewish converts, Lopez's death was a warning. No success could erase suspicion. He had fled the Inquisition for safety, only to find another kind of fire in England. For centuries, Rodrigo Lopez was branded a traitor, but the truth shows he was innocent, a scapegoat destroyed by ambition and fear. Rodrigo Lopez's story endures as a warning of how fear and prejudice can twist justice, turning a healer into a heretic and loyalty into death.